Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, as we head toward summer months, people often think of road construction and projects, but around here things are going on year-round, and today we're getting an update with the City of Joplin. Joining me, Nick Heatherly, the Public Works Director. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for inviting us. Always a pleasure.
Your department's always very busy with all the projects and things happening in the city, and really doesn't let up a whole lot during the winter months.
We haven't seen a slowdown for several years right now, so we're very busy.
So let's talk today about some of the projects, give the audience a chance to find out what's happening in the city and some of the projects they've heard about for a while, some things they may not be aware of. And when we look at the list and hear what people are talking about, everybody's been talking for a while about 20th Street and with the railroad crossing. So that might be question number one people have.
I'm sure it probably is. It's obviously going to be a major project, going to have a major impact on the traffic flow across the community in that area. The contractor is basically gathering materials, gathering their equipment up, and getting ready to move on to site. We were hopeful they should have already been there, but they're running a little bit behind on that. Once they move on, they're going to be working on the very eastern end first and on New Hampshire itself. And they've got some storm water and some underground work to do there. And once they finish that up, which should take them in the 30-day range, then we'll see 20th get shut down from New Hampshire all the way back over to Indiana. And that'll be shut down until they get finished. And right now that date is projected to be August of 2016.
So more than a year of having that road
More than
closed.
A year be shut down. That's correct.
Now, I know you have a map that kind of shows the preferred path that people need to take, so they could call that map up for people. Explain, you used to take 20th. How else do we get across town?
Well, we're actually setting this up mainly to make sure truck traffic knows where to go, because we don't want to run the trucks, obviously, through the residential areas any more than we have to. And it's not that people can't get in and around the neighborhoods and go back to where they need to. They'll still be able to do that. But this route is set up in a manner that basically directs trucks basically go down Main Street all the way to 32nd, all the way across over and back up. What is that? Is that Connecticut? Up to Connecticut, I believe it is, and back up and across. And again, that's mainly for the trucks. We know that people will learn their way around and learn the different ways. We'll be monitoring that. If there's traffic issues that develop in the area, we'll be doing additional traffic control as necessary.
I imagine you'll work closely with the police department as well, as far as people in a hurry going through those residential areas.
We do on a daily basis. They let us know if they are having issues, and we in turn work with them on a daily basis.
And of course the school, the new high school right down the road, that's also a concern. People who have kids driving to school, they'll need to wait.
Correct. And by with the construction right in this area starting obviously kind of at the end of the school year, that's a positive, at least for this school year. We'll get everybody used to where they're going and how they need to travel through that area.
Okay. Well, let's remind people about the project. This is something that was talked about for a number of years, and it involves some grants, some funding to actually make it happen for the city.
Right. This project is actually one of 5 that was funded. The majority of the funding actually comes through a federal highway grant called the TIGER grant. The TIGER, TIGER, stands for some numbers and some acronyms that we just don't even mess with that anymore. But we had 26th Street, the widening from Schifferdecker to Maiden Lane, the Maiden Lane project that's under construction right now, the Schifferdecker widening project that is pretty well finished up now. Schifferdecker and 26th, they should be totally done by probably the end of May. Maiden Lane, right now we're projecting it'll be the end of December of this year. If it doesn't quit raining pretty soon, it may be longer than that. And then we have the 20th Street grade separation, the one we just talked about, again, August of 2016 on that. And then we had a trails project over off of Murphy, 20th, 26th, in that area that we did one of the first ones there. So that was a smaller one. But all 5 of those, that was a result of a $12 million TIGER grant that we received back in 2012.
Right. So what's actually being built on 20th Street, for the layman's terms, it's a bridge over the railroad track.
It's a bridge over the railroad track, exactly. And so we're very anxious to get that on. That's going to provide, obviously, much more efficient transportation route. It's going to allow emergency services to have an uninterrupted route to get back and forth across town to provide better service as well.
Now, to help people visualize, we say a bridge, with the type of bridge that will be, I know we've seen different construction projects like Zora on Main Street, you have some bridges and embankments. What type of visualization can you help people kind of picture what it might look like?
Sure. It's basically going to have walls that go straight up from each side coming into where the railroad track is. And at that point, obviously, we'll have the actual opening that we'll go over. So the train will go under at that point. So it'll be vertical walls right up until the point you get to the railroad track. And
now, handling traffic, but I understand you're also making accommodations for pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic as well.
Correct. We will have basically an area on each side going each direction that will provide pedestrian and bike facilities.
So this is involving kind of widening this existing road in that area as well.
Well, not a whole lot, but a little bit there will be, and enough to get the traffic lanes obviously through there and the pedestrian and bike paths.
So to help people kind of visualize where the bridge starts and where it stops as far as the roads involved, where will they start the incline and where will they come down?
It starts about Illinois and goes going to the east and goes up and over and comes back down, and the toe of the slope, so to speak, is right at New Hampshire.
Okay, so there's a number of roads that are in there that won't be through streets like
there's a few now that are going to be what we'll call cul-de-saced out in some cases, or sometimes we'll just have a little outer road that is going to be built that you won't get dead-ended. You'll get to come around to the next one. So it's a combination.
Right. So the process of doing this is you're starting at one end, taking care of the New Hampshire area, fixing the, I guess basically the intersection there so you can start the work the rest of the way.
It's a little bit of a drainage issue that they're going to fix before they move on to 20th Street itself.
So once the work starts and the road's closed down, then it's a construction zone from that point.
It's a construction zone, and they'll have it they'll be driving piles and piers and different things, and right up next to the railroad, and they'll start that construction right in there.
Right. So then we'll be able to see the progress throughout the next year and a half as those different phases take place.
That's correct.
So if someone has questions as far as, you showed the recommended detour and routes and so forth, but they can contact the city and say,
anytime. Just feel free if they have any issues or questions, let us know and we'll try to work with them.
And I know when this project was discussed initially years ago, there was also talk about 15th Street. Nothing's happening in that area as far as the railroad crossing.
Right. That one was not a part of the final plan that was put together.
So this is the 20th Street crossing across town, and so this will allow, I guess basically it comes down to safety. You don't have to stop for a train if you have to go east and west.
That's correct. As everybody knows, grade crossings with railroads are very dangerous. You see it all on the news lots and lots of times where vehicular and trains collide, the train always wins. So it's an issue we need to address in this community. We've got a lot of crossings, and we're very glad to have one more of these under our belt.
And this is right in the heart of the recovery zone where we had the damage from the tornado. Do you feel that this will be something that people will be watching for? There's still areas to rebuild down there once they see the bridge coming up that will help with, as far as that type of development as well?
Well, I think so. We've got a tremendous amount of work yet to come forward in the recovery zone. The HUD money through the Community Development Block Grant program. Again, I think everybody's aware that the community's received a total of about $158 million in grants from the HUD CDBG program, and that process is still underway. We're actually advertising for bids right now for about $8 million worth of sanitary sewer work. It's always good to kind of start at the underside and come up. You don't want to do this last
put a road down and dig it up, right?
And then tear it up. So we're proceeding that way. There's a process by which I'll call it, and what it's being called is the capital planning process that's being conducted with our planning department and our consultant, Deloitte Touche. And that process is getting close to wrapping up, and that'll be then going to council for their blessing and or revision, and then we'll get started with a lot of work out in that recovery zone.
Right. Well, you mentioned the sewers and stormwaters, and that's a big aspect of your department as well. You mentioned the drainage problems earlier.
Correct.
People don't think about what's underground, or what's in the ditch on the side of the road.
Right. Well, we've had several. We've had. I think there's also. The community should understand that we've received a lot of money. We've got a lot of different funding sources that a lot of different projects are being funded. We have the communities supported the transportation sales tax. Right. We've got the capital improvement sales tax that was voted on and renewed last August. We've got the parks and stormwater sales tax that was approved and renewed a few years ago. We've now got the community development block grants that I just mentioned. We also had a grant from the state of Missouri that's being administered through the Department of Economic Development. That was another $14 million. We're actually kind of on the latter ends of getting most of that spent. You'll see, I mean, people that are living in close proximity to work knows exactly where it's at and knows how much we've got things tore up in their neighborhoods. But right now that money is, we're going to have most of it spent and most of those projects wrapped up by the end of June of this year. And so lots and lots of work going on out there.
And a lot of those have really been kind of neighborhood-specific projects.
They have
going
been.
and doing some work that might affect the sidewalk or a street for a couple
That's
days.
right. If we do a stormwater project, we usually have to do something to the curb and gutter and the sidewalks adjacent to it, just to put it all back together.
And tying it all together and people tying things in. Well, we're talking about different projects. You've already mentioned 26 Maiden Lane. The projects that I guess you could say were part of those grants from the past or funding sources from the past. So I know you have a sheet of paper with you of long lists of projects, and probably that's one big part of your job. But where do we stand and what's coming up next?
Well, it is a huge list. We've got, well, again, we've got the Tiger grants. We've got what they call local participating agency projects. These are monies and projects we work with Department of Transportation, MoDOT with. And so we've got some sidewalk type work over around the Kelsey-Norman area, Royal Heights, Eastmoreland. We've got, again, the previous capital improvement sales tax program where we've talked about Zora from Maine to Rangeline. That's actually from not this current capital improvement sales tax, but the previous one.
The previous 10-year period is money
so
still
you got that project about to kick off. The one more project left from that funding source is the St. Louis widening project, which is north of Broadway up to about Zora as well. That one's, the design's about done. We're in the process of getting ready to start the right-of-way and easement acquisition on that. Numerous stormwater projects funded by our Parks and Stormwater Sales Tax program. We've got those going. We've got, well, again, people that know where they're at. B and Porter, C and Porter, that project in there. We're looking at it coming to completion this summer. We've got 8th and Patterson. It's going to start the fall. You've got the detention pond that we talked about at 15th and Murphy. That was another one. That was actually part of our original stormwater program, but we got it funded by the DED monies. And so we're going to be able to kind of double fund, I'll say.
So you'll have more money to use on something else that
way. Get to do something else with it, some more projects to do. But that one's actually completed now, and we're basically watching now for the vegetation to get settled up and established and growth, and we're in good shape there. Various other projects across the community, a new culvert system over around near the Division and Mineral area. That's again looking at summer construction on that. Something around Peters, 9th to 12th Street, again construction this summer on that one. Over around Euclid between Rolla and Odessa, up in there, that's going to be a fall project as well. We've got a little intersection project at Murphy and Minnesota right downtown to try to do something with a very unsafe little intersection where it comes together with the railroad again and everything coming in. So we're trying to do something with that. There's sanitary sewer type projects. Anybody that's kind of up in the northwest knows that we've got things really messed up with that Lone Elm sanitary sewer. Yeah, that's trying to get that one done. We think that should be finished up in a couple of months as well. We've got a contractor working all over town doing sanitary sewer type work, and we do it. This is part of our sanitary sewer budgeting process and the user fees that the community pays for sewer, where we're trying to make sure that the system is as sound as possible. So we do a lot of work on just rehabbing it and making sure it's doesn't continue to leak. And
it meets the needs of the community.
Meets the needs, yeah. So anyway, got lots of going on there, and many, many more projects going.
So really, the project's all over town. You know, people
All
tend
over.
to think of, oh, is this a recovery area? But there are a lot of neighborhoods, a lot of parts of town.
Right now, most of it is not in the recovery zone. Most of it is outside. Again, the recovery zone projects, they'll start kicking off later this year as well. But it'll be the next year and the year after through about September of 19 that they'll see the recovery zone actually see a lot of work there.
A lot of the big projects and so forth. Well, you mentioned the Zora project, and some people might be curious if they've driven in that part of town. They see stakes along the side of the road. So let's kind of describe the process and what people will be seeing up there. You already have, I guess, a 3-lane road that has been rebuilt within recent memory for a lot of people.
Sure. And this is going to the next phase of that, and we're going to widen out to 5 lanes. All the work is on the south side. Some of the first work that'll be done will be the relocation of the main Empire District transmission system.
A lot of poles up and down the road.
In order to do that, we've got to get trees and fences and things moved off the south side as well. So that'll be the first work that you see, and once they start that process, then the actual contractor will start coming in and getting the bed subgrade and everything prepped for the widening.
With that project, since you already have 3 existing lanes, you'll still be able to maintain a traffic flow through that area?
Yeah, that's going to be one nice thing about that one is we're going to have fairly minimal impact on the actual traffic flow through there during the construction of most of this. There'll be a place or two, but most of it will be pretty open.
People can still use that road across town. And you mentioned St. Louis, and you think of Zora and St. Louis, you have an intersection there that almost looks like it's ready to handle the 5 lanes going east and west at least.
Right, and that was anticipated way back when
they built that. But that new extension of St. Louis going north will then eventually run into that intersection.
That's correct. We'll tie in, and St. Louis will become a 3-lane section down through there, and that'll help traffic flow as well and straighten out a little bit. Ease the curves on some of it to make it a little easier to flow.
Right, as there are no shoulders now or anything.
That's right.
Around tying it together. And I guess ultimately people may ask, well, why are you widening Zora? And it is really, I guess, looking at the future main east-west corridor through town. Absolutely, and we'll be, again, the next phase is to take Zora from Rangeline all the way out to 249. We've already gone out for advertisement to secure qualification statements from engineering firms to come in and actually get hired to do the right-of-way preliminary design, right-of-way acquisition, and final design for that. We've also got the qualification statement request out for 32nd Street, which is part of the new, again, capital improvement sales tax program from Schifferdecker all the way out to Central City. So that's a large project there, huge project. It's a project that will go to 3 lanes initially. We're looking to secure right-of-way for ultimately a 5-lane section to make that continuity for 32nd as that area out to the southwest continues to develop. When you talk about developing and growing, you really have to look at the parts of the city that are needing to service as it grows. And we're, both of these projects that we just talked about, we're going to be partnering with both Newton and Jasper County on these because various pieces and parts, it kind of goes in and out of the city out through both of these areas. So we'll be partnering with them on the whole thing and working with them to get that accomplished. Of course, 249 is seeing a lot more traffic as people are, I guess, discovering or using that bypass on a regular basis. It is, and one of the other projects that's even out there still yet that will even be a continuation of the Zora going west is we've got a project working with the county to actually build a new bridge over Turkey Creek from Zora to Schifferdecker. So instead of a T intersection that really binds up there with the traffic volume, we're going to have a continuous flow curved bridge go over Turkey Creek there and help that traffic movement through that zone as well. We've also got a project that we're partnering with Newton County on the Jackson Street Bridge over Shoal Creek. That project will go out for, again, qualification statements on that for engineering services
Probably within the next week or so at the latest, that'll be advertised. So we're going to get that one started.
You know, people realize the timetable involved in these projects. You talk about them for a while before you actually start breaking ground. You have a lot of work to do behind the scenes.
There's a tremendous amount of pre-planning work that has to be done. That's correct.
Now, the projects we see on the sales tax, those were input by citizens, and it was something you had citizen input on what the needs were throughout the community.
That's correct. We had a Citizens Advisory Committee that worked with us, and they made a recommendation to City Council for what the next 10-year program would allow for. So there's like 14 projects or so that were specifically identified. You're looking at a program that will generate about a $50 million capital improvement program on our transportation system throughout the community.
Great. And I know your role as Public Works Director, you keep in touch with City Council, regular updates. I know, going to meetings and letting them know what's happening.
I'm at all meetings.
To follow up on what's happening there. Well, I know your department involves a lot of other areas. We're talking about roads and transportation. People are curious about the trolley. You have some expansion, new routes, expanding public transportation.
Yeah, we had, well, obviously with the relocation of Mercy Hospital, we obviously had a lot of need to make sure our system actually extended down to that path and that direction, which it had not done before.
Right.
Changing the routes is pretty significant. People have familiarity with things. They have things, okay, well, I need to get to here, and our customer base is such that we kind of know where they need to go, you know, whether it be food related, medical related, work related, those types of things. So we had a public meeting and had people come in and look at some options on some new changes in the routes. And after going through that process, we've got those identified now, and we're going to be getting some new maps printed up, and the new routes will go into effect probably within the next month or so here.
So as summer approaches, you'll have new ways to get around town and adapt to that. So transportation in town, and then you also involve the airport, which takes people out of town. And
it does.
You know, unless you're flying out of town, you may not realize it, but you have projects going on at the airport.
We do as well, and we've got some work done. Again, we have a 5-year master plan that has recently been completed, and we're working on some of those things right now. We've got some taxiway work being done. We've got some environmental work that's getting ready to get started on a future extension of the main runway that we've got out there. So that work is proceeding, along with, again, the CDBG possibility of doing some work in the airport industrial park as well. So all of that's adding up to a tremendous amount of work.
Keeps your staff busy.
That's right. If you've got any spare time, come by.
Come by, you can use some help. And your staff is something you've been able to add to, I mean, adapt as you have these new needs and demands.
Well, some. We were recently pleased to have a new assistant director come on board, Mr. Dan Salisbury, after 37 plus years with the Missouri Department of Transportation. He ended his career as a assistant district engineer in the Southwest District, and Dan's a longtime Joplinite, and he accepted and came on board, and we're just real pleased to have him join us.
Great. And of course, you talk about district-wide, region-wide. A lot of these projects we're talking about, you're working with regional transportation plans, and things don't stop at the city limits. You run into Webb City, you run into other communities. You have to coordinate these efforts. We
have to meet with lots of people and make sure everybody's working together on this, whether it's our regional planning group or MoDOT, the counties. The roads don't stop at these invisible lines that are out there, and it's critical that we all work together to make sure that they're flowing good and they're working good. And so yes, we have a regional planning type group, and it's called the JATSO, which is Joplin Area Transportation something other, I don't. And anyway, we're right now part of that group. Our operation requires us to have a long-range transportation plan, and by the nature of the beast, we're required to actually update that every 5 years. Okay. This is the 5th year. So we are out right now again soliciting consultants to actually come in and prepare that updated document for us. and we should be seeing those come back in by the end of the month or so.
Great. So again, Joplin, a community of, say, 50,000, but you have a lot more people coming to town to shop and work, and you have that regional transportation
Right.
hub.
The planners tell me we look at, 50,000 plus population, but we've got probably 250 on a daily basis coming in to work and shop and do. So
when you look across town and you look at all the street lights, all the stoplights, all the intersections that your department basically is responsible for,
well, to a degree. I wish I had control over some things, and other things I'm glad I don't have. I'm fortunate. Empire District has most of the street lights. We do have most of the signal lights. MoDOT has a few of those as well. So we've got our fair share of things to take care of.
Now, as far as citizen involvement, if someone notices something, we're come spring season, they see potholes or road concerns or drainage concerns, what's the best way to get in touch with your department? Just
call the City Hall and tell them what you're wanting to report, and whoever answers the phone, they'll know who to get it to, and we'll get it to us, and we'll know what to do with it. I mean, our crews are out all winter looking at and trying to maintain potholes and things. So it's not that we don't know that they're out there, but if it doesn't hurt, if we've missed something, by all means, don't hesitate. We'll be glad to talk to you.
I'm sure somebody has that list in their office.
Oh, yes, they do.
Projects.
We do.
And speaking of summer, you still have the summer, I guess, routine maintenance. I know every summer you do some slurry seal work, resurfacing, and so forth. That will continue again.
That's correct. As well. Our annual, again, through the Transportation Sales Tax Program, that's where we are budgeting our annual overlay program and annual street surfacing maintenance program. And so that's gearing up, and we're going to have that kick off here in the next few months as well. So we're looking at a little over $1 million worth of resurfacing work to be done. So
it kind of boils down to it. People, as they're driving around, need to be aware of construction activities, watch those work zones.
Please, it's a dangerous place to be out there on the streets in a traveling area like that, and contractors have got a lot of work to get done, and they need to be tentative, but please cut them some slack and give them as much room and slow down as much as you can.
And I'm sure from a city perspective, the before and the after, that really you see the differences. The citizens are going to see those differences and those benefits.
We sure do. We hope they do.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for coming in and sharing some information with our viewers. And if they want further information, I know you have a website. They can give you a call. If they're wondering, what are they doing down the street for me, just pick up the phone and ask. Just ask. We are not keeping our website up to date as best we could right now, but we just please call, and we'll be glad to try to respond. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And I'd like to thank you for joining me this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.